guys? This is Bromance Wargaming. We're here with Bromance Chat number 3. We've got Dallas and Landon. Ooh, he's special. He wasn't here last week. And Jody, who I think is making food of some kind right now.
I am.
So he's not waving at somebody off in the distance. He's making food. And I am Matt, in case nobody knew that. So last week we ranked armies, which we thought were the best, the top 5, and we went ahead. We had to call it because it actually took us a while. We spent a long time complaining about the corn skull cannon. But so we wanted to get to our list of our three picks for the worst armies. So who wants to start off with their worst armies?
I'll start.
Okay, go ahead.
It was actually really tough. I'll be honest, Lizardmen almost made it.
Oh.
But in the end, I also couldn't drop what else down there because I haven't really played against them or seen them play enough to know how bad they are this time around. They don't seem as bad, though. So those two had much deliberation. In the end, starting from least worst at number 3, going up to most worst, I suddenly went blank and can't think about my third, so someone else can go.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Got to write stuff down. When you get over 30, Jody, you've got to start writing stuff down.
Bad.
Let that be a lesson to you, Landon. You young pup.
Well, I know my absolute worst is Tomb Kings. I'm just going to put that out there.
All right.
It just
I'll go ahead and go, I guess, if while you're thinking of it. I've got mine right here.
Go for it.
All right. So number 3, least worst, is Bretonia. Shock and awe? Anybody? No? Okay.
Nope.
First, okay, so let's get this out of the way. The Bretonia book is like 12 years old. Of course it's bad. It's still pretty good in certain builds. One that Ant from the Sustainable Center runs, the character bus, is usually pretty good, where you put a bunch of characters in front and they have like 1-up or 1-up and rerollable, and you just bubble Savage Beast and then you maul things, is pretty good. There's some other builds that are pretty good. I've seen Once Bitten run that are less character wall intensive, but they still focus a lot on their characters. And I feel like there's only just a couple builds that work. Part of that is because the army, like I said, is old. There's not a lot of choices, and that starts to show when you're trying to build a competitive list. You know, oh, I could take knights with lances, or slightly better knights with lances, or knights with great weapons, or like living saints who have lances and magical attacks. So, I mean, woo, big surprise there. You have different armament for your knights, and I mean, like I said, they are good, but giving up the first turn all the time to get part of your army's bonus, I feel, is really terrible. And the thing that really gets me, like, I would almost rank them above some other armies, but the whole rubber lance syndrome, like, they have to win on the charge. If they don't win on the charge, then they just don't win. You know, they're not going to break anything with their 6 strength 3 attacks or whatever, because even their characters go down to like strength 4 after a while, after the charge. And so really you either have to break them on the charge, or you really kind of have to run the bubble Savage Beast. And any time that you're focused on a single spell to win a game, I'm just not impressed. Like, I know that, especially when you're not like Mindrazor Dark Elves from 7th edition, where you threw a billion dice at Mindrazor and stabbed some people if you didn't get double 6s. And then to compound all that, they have knights that are kind of overpriced. They're kind of expensive for what they do. They have the lance formation that's okay. I mean, it's good. It's a good way to run knights. But if they don't win on the charge, they're really just kind of SOL. But the real thing for me that gets me, so the big 3 things are: you have to win on the charge. There's only a couple builds, and come on. The third one is men-at-arms. You're paying, what, 5 points for those guys? They're terrible. They're terrible for 5 points.
They're strength 4.
Oh, they have halberds and light armor.
What's their leadership?
Oh, 5.
Okay.
5.
But they can
What's their
use. They can.
and their weapon skill is what? What's their weapon skill? It's pretty mighty.
It's skink level.
Yeah, okay, I have a sad fact to tell you, Dallas. I forgot at Brawler Bash that skinks were weapon skill too.
Why?
Like, I don't know. Like, just for the entirety of Brawler Bash, like both of my games against Lizardmen, I thought they were weapon skill 3.
Yeah.
It was just a thing. Like, my opponent was finally like, "Oh, it's weapon skill 2." I was like, I'm very sad.
All right. So
Yeah, so men-at-arms are pretty terrible. So that's my number 3. My least, like, third from the bottom.
yeah.
All right. So number 2, and I hate to do this one because I like this army a lot. Actually, I like all 3 of these armies, which makes me sad to rank them bottom. Number 2, second most, the runner-up for worst army in my mind is Beastmen. And Beastmen is on the list for pretty much the same reason Bretonia is. It's kind of outdated. It doesn't have a lot of answers to things. You know, it's got... And really, all of the Beastmen answers are magic. Whereas Bretonia has like the heroic Killing Blow Lord that can do some things, has Pegasus Knights and Trebuchets that can help pick up the slack. Beastmen don't really have anything. Some of Beastmen's best stuff is chaff. You know, they have the Pumbaa gore that run around with bulging out eyeballs, and those are really great. But they're not, I don't see people run hordes of them because they have low leadership, I guess, and they can't be joined by characters, maybe. I don't know. So really, everything the Beastmen do to answer common meta questions, like what do we do against heavy armor? Oh, well, we throw like Amber Spear, or we Mind Razor. What do we do against flying things? Well, we Amber Spear, or we, Miasma, or whatever, what have you. All of their answers are magic-based. And again, once you start getting into magic-based stuff, it really starts to frustrate me. It starts to get more fickle, and I don't think it's as good. This is really compounded by the essentially non-existent rare section. The rare section for Beastmen is all ridiculously overpriced. Giants are always bad, and then all of their monsters are at least 50 points overpriced, I think. I guess you could take Chaos Spawn from their rare, and that would be the least terrible thing to take, but that's like saying eating nails that aren't rusty is okay, because at least you won't get tetanus. Their stuff is generally okay for the price. I think that Razor Gores are really good, actually, and Minotaurs are kind of bad, but generally you're getting what you pay for. It's just that there's not enough diversity there to really answer questions, and I don't really feel like outside of the Doom Bowl there's really anything that forces people to adapt. And the one-up rerollable armor save Doom Bowl of deathy killiness is really good, except now that the meta's focused on dealing with stuff that's high toughness and high armor save, he becomes much less of a threat because people have answers to that. Orc and Goblin players are taking Doom Divers regularly. Most Elf players are taking, like a Bolt Thrower or something to deal with armor. There's lots of cannons. He doesn't have any kind of ward save. It's not really good for that Doom Bowl. So that's Beastmen. The only thing I'd say about their answer to armor is I don't understand why people don't take the Totem of Rust on some Bestigors. Like, Bestigors are their best answer versus their best non-magic answer versus armor, and they're strength 6. And they have hatred most of the time because of Primal Fury. But, strength 6 isn't really that great for getting through high toughness, high armor save stuff. It's workable, but depending on what you're fighting, like if you're fighting a big enough unit of Skull Crushers or Demigryphs or whatever, or if you've got a debuff of any kind on you, they're just going to chew through you. They're still going to kill a bunch, and the Bestigor aren't cheap. And so I kind of wonder why nobody takes the Totem of Rust, because the Totem of Rust completely negates the Bestigor armor save, because anybody in base with the unit, including the unit itself, is -3 armor save. So and everything within 6 inches is like -1. Well, other than nothing in the Beastman army has an armor save except for the Doom Bolt anyway, and so you can, and if you're running against anything except for Wood Elves with True Flight arrows, I guess, or Tomb Kings, but come on, nobody runs Tomb Kings. You can run Ungor in front of them to try and screen them, a little bit from shooting to kind of make up for the difference with your armor save. And then if you get into anything with the 1-up armor save, it goes to 0. Like, you just don't get an armor save. And I think that's a pretty good thing to do, but nobody seems to agree with me. And I don't play Beastmen, so I don't really know. Maybe that is a terrible answer, and I'm terrible for suggesting it.
How many points is that totem?
50?
Oh. Well, if the unit itself doesn't have the points, maybe it has to go on a BSB if that unit can't take a banner that big?
No, I think that's one of their only units that can take a magic banner. I'm pretty sure they can take it on its own.
I don't know. Sounds legit to me.
I mean, I'm not really enamored with a 5-up armor save anyway, so I'm just kind of like, whatever, just throw that armor save away and let me be better at killing stuff.
All right. Beastman players prove Matt wrong. Why does it suck?
Yeah, really. Like, somebody tell me. I really want to know, because every time I look at it, I think, why does nobody do this? I mean, I see big hordes of Bestigor, but I feel like they'd be better against what they're supposed to kill with that thing.
The Totem of Rust is actually, they treat the armor saves as 2 worse than it actually is.
Oh, so they get a 6-up.
Yeah.
Still.
I mean, I'm
still better.
Yeah.
1 worse within 6, so you're definitely right there.
Yeah. Oh, there. Yeah. Well, I mean, if you figure the armor piercing standard is 45 points, so you pay 5 points extra and you give up your armor save and reduce it by 2. I mean, I'm still on board with it. A 6 is still way better than a 4 to me.
Well, the Bestigor is only 12 points a model. That's really not too expensive. I mean, their initiative isn't great.
It's expensive. It gets expensive when you start buying big units. Like, it doesn't seem like it per model, but once you start buying the big units that you need to swing last, because you're buying like 30 or 40, and you're up at almost 400 points just with 30.
I don't know why herds don't. They don't know why people don't take Razor Gore in big units. I mean, they have leadership 6, which isn't great, but toughness 5, 3 wounds, 4 attacks, strength 6.
They're strength 5, aren't they?
Yeah, strength
and 6
5,
on the charge.
Movement 7. And they cause fear.
Yeah, I don't know. I think they're really good. I'm not really sure. People usually run them in like groups of 1. It may be one of those things where they're just expensive to buy.
Yeah. And yeah, the Razor Gore, which is good.
Yeah. So like I said, Beastmen have some good choices. I only see 1 or 2 builds, and they seem to really struggle with the current meta. So in my mind, they're one of the worst armies. But I like them, which Yoshi will mock me for if he ever gets on. And my last one, the most worst army, the worstest, if you will, is Tomb Kings. And that shouldn't come as a surprise to anybody that, especially in Bromance, as they were privy to me talking about how often I beat Yoshi's Tomb Kings and how ridiculous it was, like how ridiculous the victories were. But I'll try and make this one a little quicker because I know I went long on Beastmen, but Tomb Kings don't have a lot of access to high strength. Even a lot of their monsters are strength 5. Like, really, you have their characters that have any kind of high strength. Heavy armor, which is really popular, is difficult to deal with. They have to, they're overly expensive for what you get. Like, they're paying for synergies in their books, and I just feel like they're overly expensive. Like, the Ushabti, I don't think are really worth the points. Stuff like that. And their synergies don't really seem to work very well. Like, their synergies are like, if you're within 6 inches of a Necrotect, your constructs get a 6-up regen save. Well, I mean, yay, I guess. I don't know. Maybe if your Necrotech could actually like put a wound back on a unit or something, it would be a little bit different. I don't know. It just doesn't seem like they're really that helpful. And all their ranges are really small for their synergistic type stuff. Like it really is like 12 or 6 inches on the Necrotech. And that's terrible when he's on foot and can't ride anything. And the stuff he's putting wounds on is like movement 6 or flying. And I don't know. And then them not being able to march is really ridiculous. I know people don't. I know this is like less popular to say now, but really games are won in the movement phase. You're really trying to plan ahead and win by positioning and threatening and stuff. And you can't do that if you can't march. And I don't care. Like for a long time, I tried to believe, oh well, you could just desert wind them, but you have to use dice to do what other people do for free. And that's really terrible. Not only that, if you want a lore that's not the lore of MWAHAHA, then you have to pay the tax. You have to put a wizard in that is your highest level wizard first. I don't know. Like the whole book is jacked, I think. Like you could fiddle around with it and make some changes and make it a good book. It wouldn't take a lot, but dropping some prices, dropping the way that the Hierophant thing works, and maybe buffing up some of the synergies, and I feel like the book would be fine. But as it is, it seems kind of like a mess. Nothing is like the scariest thing is the Casket of Souls, and it's a bound thing. It's like a war machine. It's a scary war machine, but we all deal with scary war machines all the time. And it has 3 wounds, and so you shoot poison shots at it, or you get enough 6s, and it has like a 5-up armor save. And so it's just throw mud at it until it dies, and then that's the scariest thing in the list usually. So.
And of course, it takes dice out of your magic phase that you need to use to actually move your army around, and
yeah.
So.
Well, I mean, and Desert Wind is like 12-inch bubble, or you can buff it to a 24-inch bubble, and it's like I forget what it costs for the 24-inch bubble. I think it's kind of prohibitive, and so you're like dedicating 2 casters to move your entire line the way that a normal person moves their army. And that is just ridiculous to me. Oh yeah, it's going to heal some people too. Great. Why not just make the healing the signature spell and let me freaking march my stuff? But that's my list. It went Bretonnians at number 3, Beastmen at number 2, and Tomb Kings at number 1.
Well, I do remember mine now.
You know what? You don't get to go.
Okay.
You're last now because you thought you were first, and then you forgot. You're last. Because if you ain't first, you're last. That's what Ricky Bobby taught us. So we're going to make Dallas go.
All right. Well,
because alphabetically he comes before Landon.
All right. Well, it's gonna sound like a bit of an echo, unfortunately.
It's okay. We'll make it quick then. You can just make jokes.
Yeah. Number 3, third worst, is definitely an army that's near and dear to me. It's Bretonnian. I mean, and just to go on a few things that Matt didn't say is that I think the biggest issue is that they have some absolutely horrible matchups against armies. Like, there's armies that you might be at a disadvantage against some, but Bretonnians just have some armies that's just like, lol, you're just going to have a bad day. I mean...
I feel like maybe you're thinking about demons.
I am.
Since you ranked them number 1 last week.
I am. Demons... I mean, anything that's... I mean, even dwarves, I think now, especially since they can have so many units that are stubborn, I mean, that's just... Like you said, they have to win on the charge, and if they're stubborn, you're more than likely not going to win on that charge. So, I mean, it's just... That really puts a hampering on them. I think, again, like you said, the book is just really old, overcosted. Not a whole lot of options to provide answers for different things. A lot of their answers are characters or trebuchet.
Right.
Next up after that is, again, going with the echoing your sentiments, is the Beastmen. I think it's just a really really old book, so a lot of things are overcosted. I think the ambush rule is pretty horrible. I mean,
Oh, I didn't even think about that. You're right.
I mean, it's like regular ambush but worse, and it's your special rule for your army. I mean, the hatred rule does help give a punch. The Doom Bull is pretty nasty. The Herdstone can um, help make your magic phases quite nice. So, I mean, they do have a few things, and I think kind of Maloran was talking about how they may have a little bit better chances in the current meta. I can definitely see that. So we may be seeing them, and maybe even they'll seem a little bit better in the coming months. And
I
lastly
can agree
is
with that.
Tomb Kings. I mean, it's basically just because there's not hardly anything when I think of facing Tomb Kings that's scary to me. I mean, I can pretty much go pick any army and say, oh, I do not want to face this because of X. You know, I don't want to face demons because of Skull Cannon. Same thing, Empire, I don't want to face steam tanks. The whole chariot thing. But anyway, it's I just don't think like I'm lining up against them. I'm like, okay, they got some monsters that have horrible armor saves, easy to pluck wounds through. About the only thing the closest thing is like you said, the casket. The Tomb Guard can kind of be scary since they have Killing Blow, but not really. I mean, that's about it. Um, yeah, I think those pretty much touching on things that you didn't say. And I didn't even think about the their whole magic tax that they have to pay just to be on par with any other army. So, uh, yeah, Tomb Kings just got the shaft. I mean, at least the other two armies can go, oh, well, our book's 10 years old and we're going to get a new one soon. Tomb King's going to wait around a while being sucky.
Yeah, they were quite a while but in between their books as well, so they're probably going to get stuck with the same treatment that like Bretonia has had. They're going to have the same book for like 10 years and it'll be terrible.
Well, anyway, those are mine.
All right.
I guess we got to switch to Landon next.
All right, Landon, are you ready? I don't think that Landon is ready.
No. All right, I guess to Jody then.
Yep.
Sad day. All right. It's actually kind of a shame. My bottom three are the same bottom three. I already mentioned Tomb Kings is the worst, but I'll go through my list. I'm actually going to choose Beastmen as my number 3. Thought about it a little more while we were talking. Originally, I actually had Bretonians as number 3. But as I thought about it more, I realized I think the army-wide special rule of getting hatred is really, really good. I think there are some viable builds with the Bestigor, with the Minotaurs, with the Doom Bull, with the magic, that being, the next in the list is Bretonian, and I think that Beastmen could beat Bretonia. I think that the more viable builds Bretonia would have issue with, just because even though they have the charge and they'll do a lot of wounds, there's some high strength and stuff that can get armor and enough chaff to really mess with Brett's. So I think I'm going to go with the Beastmen there. I actually really like some of the items in the Beastmen book too. The lore sucks, but they get the Herdstone, which is really good. They have some, like I said, they have some really good builds. Even their main characters, other than the Doom Bull, aren't bad. So I'm gonna have to go there. Next is Bretonian. For pretty much everything everyone else already said, you pay so much for putting such few models on the table, and it's so easy to deal with high armor right now in the meta. And I mean, even toughness 3. Okay, elves. Even what elves are? I mean, not what elves. High elves or dark elves can still. All they can do is make them roll 1s. pluck a few wounds off.
Well, yeah, and Brett's don't even have a 1-up armor save. Brett's have a 2-up armor save. So that's really terrible when you're fighting stuff like high elves have like like dark elves. A lot of dark elf stuff is like strength 4 or
Yeah.
like strength 3 and armor piercing. So now it's on a 3. That's actually really terrible.
And it's a 3 and a 6 instead of a 4 and a 5, which
Yeah.
Dallas has said strength 4 is kind of his bane, because pretty much anything you fail your armor save, you're going to take a wound.
Yeah, strength 4 armor piercing is just horrible.
Yeah. So I think I have to go that way. I mean, there's still some good stuff in the Bretts, but they just not enough models, I guess, is what it comes down to me. Too easy to. I mean, all you need is a ward save and they're done. And right now, ward saves are really easy to get. So, and last is Tomb Kings. I don't know. They're just. I think the best strategy with them is to sit back and shoot stuff because you're always sitting on 5s no matter what. I think that you could use the character to give them poison shots and then get some monsters or chaff up front and just block people from getting to you and just shoot.
Uh-huh.
Magic, I don't know how great it works. I'm sure people have tried it, but that's the only thing they have, and that's pretty pathetic. Even the casting stuff, it's okay, so you have some good magic. Well, obviously that's the target.
Yeah, a lot of people I've seen that run Tomb Kings effectively run one of 2 builds. They either run a light council build, which buffs all their crappy troops and gives them banishment, which helps them deal with stuff that their army has trouble with, or they run like the super monster mash. Like they run the king on a sphinx, and I think you can even put a prince on a sphinx. I'm not sure about that, but then they run like 3 sphinxes and 2 necro sphinxes, and they just like slam toughness 8 models at you, and that works well because it's hard to get any res off of them, so they can actually grind stuff out.
Yeah, that's just in the end, it's just not. It's not good. I feel sad for them.
Yeah. I mean, I guess they could do what I've been doing with Dark Elves and run a light council that then monster mashes, but I think that that's too many points for them.
Yeah.
Well, and also their monsters aren't as nasty as the Dark Elf monsters. But then again, who else has monsters like that?
High Elves.
We have one.
Other monsters as good as Dark Elf monsters? Other people? I don't know. I'm trying to figure out what's going on with Landon. He was here for all the stuff that didn't involve him.
Yeah, he keeps coming in and dropping and.
Yeah, I want to know if his list is the same as ours, at least before he drops, because I think it's going to be sad. Jody, I think for me the reason I'll talk to you a little bit while we're waiting on Landon, just because I feel like Brett's are better than Beastmen because Brett characters are better than Beastmen characters. I feel like they're both really focused on characters, and I feel like Brett's are less focused on magic than Beastmen, which is a thing for me. But then also the Brett characters essentially have a good armor save and a decent ward save without paying points for it, or without like magic item points for it rather.
That's fair.
Plus, I rate Heroic Killing Blow really highly, even though I know it's not very reliable. I give it the thumbs up because it's such a powerful ability. I'm actually a big fan of Ant's double Heroic Killing Blow list that he took to Brawler Bash. He took a guy on a Pegasus, Lord Flappy Bird, and he took another guy, and I'm pretty sure they both had Heroic Killing Blow, and that gets the double thumbs up for me.
That was a lot of points for that second Heroic Killing Blow.
Yeah.
Jeez.
I mean, but essentially that's what they need. I mean, like, you have Trebs and you have Heroic Killing Blow. That's how you deal with things.
Oh, yeah. I understand.
So, Landon, are you there? I I don't know. I certainly would probably rank Beastman higher if I saw different people running Beastman differently and saw it, working. Because I think the book is probably better than what has happened with it recently.
Well, one army that I used to have in the bottom, although I couldn't necessarily say that about my own results versus it, would be Wood Elves. But I haven't actually faced it since the new update, and I think their versatility, especially in the Magic, and some of their new options, put them ahead of those, just from my own theories about it. Not that I've actually faced it.
I don't know if you saw it on our Facebook page. I said something about this, but we definitely the 30-man tournament I went to this past weekend was won by Wood Elves, and his last game was versus Nurgle Demons.
Yeah, I heard that.
So, I mean, and the guy was running like Treemen, and the demon player had skull cannons, and I don't really understand. Landon, I see your face. Are you there, friend?
Yeah, I get on my phone. I don't know. We're having some internet issues. Our TV and internet's out, so I'm going to be pretty spotty. I'm sorry.
That's okay, man. I just figured that your wife decided that she, in fact, was done watching TV, and it was time for her to get you off the computer.
No, she is pretty pissed that she's missing Big Brother, though. It's like the only channel that's out, so that's not so much.
Man, of course, dude. Of course. I send my condolences to her. That sucks. I hate when that stuff happens.
Yeah. What I miss?
Well, okay. So when did you cut out?
Like 15 minutes ago.
Okay. So did you get all three? Did you get all of my list?
I did. I heard you do Bretonia, Beastmen, and then Tomb Kings, and then I heard Dallas say Bretonia.
All right, Dallas. What was number 2 for you, buddy?
Beastmen.
All right, and then what was number 1 for you?
Tomb Kings.
So
Yeah.
me and Dallas high five from across the state of Georgia with the exact same lists. Jody threw a wrench in our plans for a trifecta. Jody had
Beastman is number 3.
Okay, so what was number 2? Was it Tomb King?
Good old Bretonian, and then Tomb King.
Oh, okay, Landon. So it's up
All
to
right.
you. If you
Well,
pick Tomb Kings as their number 1 worst, then the Bromanceers are in agreement.
okay. Well, I'm going to be a hipster because I interpreted the question differently than I think everyone else did. As worst book, I kind of thought maybe the worst written book, or maybe the most disappointing book to play with.
Okay, yeah,
So,
no, that does change the question a little bit.
Okay, so and I'll try to be quick. But number 3, of course, is going to be Bretonia, and again, we need to give it a pass. It's an ancient book, but as far as variety, which is something I really value in a game that's about having fun, there's just not a lot of variety. You have guys on horses.
Landon, you
have-
play dwarves. You have no fun.
I'm sure
Hey,
Dwarves
wait.
is lower down on the list for him because, let's be honest, Dwarves is lower down on all of our list for the amount of fun to be had in a book.
You're both exactly right. So you may want to let me say all 3 before you jump on that.
Okay, I'm buckling up.
But you got on horses, you got peasants in the mud, and you have a trebuchet. You have some. That's it. It kind of gets hard to have fun, but you know what? I don't want to spend too much time on it. The book is ancient. Number 2 is Skaven, and I don't think anyone will say that Skaven is not competitive, but I mean, their FAQ is as long as like the Britannia book. So I mean, it's like it's just dumb. It's badly written. There's a lot of mistakes. There's a lot. I mean, I've even heard there's like grammatical errors. I don't have a lot of experience with that, but when you have to have several pages of FAQ, it makes it a bad experience. And that's the way I look at the game, as how fun is it for both people involved. Now I'm going to just jump straight into it. Number one most disappointing book is Dwarfs. Now, they fixed a lot of things with the new Dwarf book, and a lot of things that we had problems with, but they didn't add anything. Dwarfs are not fun to play with. They're not fun to play against. You have infantry and you have war machines. Your infantry pretty much all have the same stats. You know, you may get a bump in strength, you may get a bump in leadership, you may have some cool little ability, but your guys are leadership 9, strength 4 with a great weapon, and usually stubborn. So, and those are all great things, but it's not fun for your opponent to fight 4 blocks of the exact same troop type called different things and then get blasted. You know, the gyrocopter is great. The gyrocopter was a great step in the right direction. Why didn't they add like 3 or 4 more units just like it? I don't know. And then icing on the cake, the Anvil is just completely unplayable. One of the most iconic units probably in the Warhammer world, and it is unplayable. It's like 300 points of just you get a magic missile, and you get immune to psych on an army that's leadership 10 stubborn and usually already immune to psych. So that's my final 3. Those books are the 3 that struggle with being fun to play with, fun to play against, and versatile with models on the table.
Yeah, I'm actually really worried for the new Bretonian update. A lot of people are saying the new Bretonian update is going to be, you know, sometime before September. I'm really worried that Bretonia is going to take the dwarf way out. They're going to, you know, fix some stuff that's wrong with it, but they're not going to give Bretonia any more options, and it's still going to be knights and some peasants with poop on their face.
Yeah. Well, why can't they just, you know, things like, I like the units like, you know, dire bats or, I don't know, the warhawk riders, you know, just really fun, unique units that do really cool things. And they don't have to be super powered. They just have to be interesting and fun to look at on the table and fun to play with on the table. And the gyrocopter is perfect, but that's all we have. So, and I feel like Bretonia is in the same boat. Let's give them something cool. Let's give them, you know, I don't know, like ethereal horsemen or knights on foot or the lady of the lake. You know, I mean, something. Just get some fun stuff in there.
I don't know, man. Like I said, I'm worried that it's going to be the same thing. They're going to get just their knights decreased in points, get a new special rule, and going to get slapped on the bum and told good game.
Yeah, and you know what? The book's probably already been written for 2 years, and they're just holding it for the proper release date, like they did with Wood Elves and Dwarfs.
All right, Landon.
Now,
Well, if we look at your way of thinking with the least fun books, if we switch that around, what would you say is the most fun book?
Orcs and Goblins, hands down. It is. It's got tons of unit options. It's got plenty of core options. I mean, it's got stuff like pump wagons and squigs, and I mean, like probably just one section of the Orcs and Goblins book is more interesting than the entire Dwarf Bretonia armies combined. You know. Anytime you play Orcs and Goblins, you're in for a treat. I mean, I lose to Orcs and Goblins a lot, but every time I play, I get to see a ton of units do a ton of funny, crazy things.
There's only 7 Lord choices, not counting special characters. Come on, man. It's not. That book's not that diverse. Come
Let's
on.
compare that to Lizardmen with their 2 Lord choices.
Dude, okay, let me not get started on how close Lizardmen were to my bottom 3 books.
I had to think very long and hard about it as well.
I actually think if you're going on least fun books, I think Bretonnian and Beastmen have more builds than Lizardmen.
I certainly think I would have more fun playing Bretonnia than I would have playing Lizardmen.
Agreed.
Because again,
I'm sorry, I disagree actually, because I think there's a lot of units in Lizardmen that are fun and interesting to play, but people just refuse to play with them because they're not powerful. You know, let's look at the Ripperdactyls, the Pterodons, the Skinks riding Pterodons, and then the Bastillodon. All these units are super fun, super interesting. You know, the Bastillodon competes in like 3 phases. So I think the units are there. I just think people don't want to field them.
Well, they get fielded.
Go ahead,
The Ripperdactyls are just terrible. They're terrible, as Charles Barkley would say. They're terrible. I mean, okay, they give you Killing Blow, and yeah, they have a ton of attacks, but their initiative, I don't know, I think it's 3 or 4. I mean, so they're hitting nowhere near fast enough to actually matter having Killing Blow in a unit like that. And oh, they can put a freaking toad token on something. I mean, it's kind of neat.
Well,
it's a neat concept, but they have Frenzy in their Leadership 5, so you have to babysit them the whole game until you actually want them to go somewhere, or they're going to be charging every damn thing.
How much do they cost? I actually don't know their cost.
I have to double check on that. I know the Pterodons are 35, so Ripperdactyls are probably in the same range, probably 35, 40 each.
I think that's fine for like 100, 110 point unit, 120 point unit. I mean, coming from a guy who paid that for 5 horses with no armor last book, I'm kind of skewed, but
yeah, you can't.
I still think they're fun. Yeah.
Being fun and viable are definitely different, and I think if you rate it on the fun, I mean, Lizardmen have the potential to have an awesome army. They have dinosaurs who, that's just always cool. The issue, I guess, is putting a model that looks cool on the table is one thing, but if that's your only goal, then Lizardmen are great, but people don't have fun putting models on the table that absolutely suck.
Putting models on the table that are going to get taken off in first turn.
Bastillodons, they show. I mean, they're out there. They're one of the better units in the Lizardmen book. But you know, the Pterodons and the Razordons have, like, I agree with you. They're fun models. I actually think the Carnosaurs are awesome.
Yeah.
Initiative is so bad, they're not viable. And I think that's where, if you're talking about as a hobby and modeling, Lizardmen's up there. But if you're talking about actual playability, has to be a factor of fun. There's like 2 lists.
Well, let me interrupt to say this. The reason that I think Bretonnia is more fun than Lizardmen is not because I have something against dinosaurs riding dinosaurs, because that is a freaking amazing concept, and I want to high five whichever crazy stoner metalhead thought that up in the 80s and marketed it. But what gets me is I got into Warhammer because I really like heroic characters, and I don't like the heroic characters to the extent of like Demon Prince Bad Touch, where he can take on whole armies. But the idea of like a human dude with like strength and toughness 4 and like weapon skill 6 riding around and stabbing something in the throat and killing it is like, it appeals to the 12-year-old like Arthurian buff in me, and so I really just enjoy the heroic killing blow thing. Like the rest of Bretonnia is shades of the same thing, but like that whole knightly, like the theme of the army and the ability for the characters to do like these amazing feats that just sound heroic, that's a thing for me. And so that's really what pushes Bretonia in fun over Lizardmen for me. Apparently, I shut everybody up.
Yeah. No, I totally understand, and I just get tired of seeing horses. And then,
Yeah.
you know,
No, that makes sense. Actually, the Grail Relique, right? Did I pronounce that right?
Who knows? It's French. We're not French.
Yeah. There's two things. Correct me if I'm wrong, Dallas. There's two things in their book that are similar to that no one ever uses because they suck, but they're cool.
No, I mean the Grail thing is its own weird unit.
Yeah.
And it has its uses, I think, as a tar pit, but it's not very optimal, I guess, in any way. And I'm not a really big fan of the fluff or the model of it anyway. But beyond that, most everything else you see from Bretonia every once in a while. I mean, most of their, well, actually no, you don't never see the Brett Lord on a hippogriff because the hippogriff is more terrible than the Carnosaur.
I don't think you're allowed to say that. I mean, it may be true, but I don't think you're allowed to say it regardless.
I mean, it is an awesome model. I have one right here. Woo! It's awesome. It's horrible.
Actually, one thing that I think is really cool is we start talking about fun and what Matt likes and what I like and what Landon likes.
And no one cares what I like.
No one cares what you like. I think
you're still a newlywed. You still like whatever your wife likes.
You're right.
Wait, no, that'll change later. It'll change later, but right now you're still on the hook for that.
But I think to me, as a whole, that actually is what I like about the hobby most. Is I can get the net lists out there for Demons and Nurgle, but I did it to a theme because I like it. And I didn't build a net list. I built, hey, I want to build an Nurgle army, and this is what I want to put into it. It just happened to be a really good build.
Sure. I'm sure that's the way that happened.
But I think just what you can do with the models. You talk about fun and viability. I actually don't think Demons have. I mean, they have the Nurgle build, and they have a couple like Mono Slanesh is okay, but Tzeentch isn't that great. Khorne, other than the cannons, suck. So they pretty much only have one or two builds too. But the modeling aspect, what we like about the lores, that kind of stuff is what makes me continue to think, oh man, I want more armies.
I can understand that. I appreciate that at least, and I haven't met anybody that's really down on it. Like, because I have the Cult of Slanesh Dark Elf army, and nobody ever goes, that's dumb. People go, oh, cool.
Yeah.
Well, Landon said it was dumb one time, but I don't really care what he thinks.
What?
Actually, before I expound on that, because I will actually come back to that for you, Landon. Dallas, what do you like?
What do I like?
Yeah, we made fun of you a little bit. What do you like?
A lot of things. Like, I mean, the lizardmen, the dinosaurs I do like. I like all the stegodons. I like the carnosaurs. I just, unless I'm just wanting to lose, I won't really put it out on the table. I mean, even if special rules are horrible, I mean, you got to pay 20 extra points to get Swift Stride on the thing.
What's its initiative, Dallas?
3, I do believe.
You should face my demon list. You'll go before me.
It is the ultimate predator of the Lustrian jungle, and it has weapon skill 3.
It's okay because Saurus were genetically engineered to be combat warriors, and what's their weapon skill?
Yes.
I mean, like, orcs are mildly intelligent fungus that fights itself because it gets bored, and their biggest and strongest people are as good as Temple Guard, who are ancient beings genetically altered to protect the Slann. The old ones just didn't know what they were doing. That's all. That's why I'm sticking to that.
When you take a frog and give it a sword,
Hey,
what are you gonna do?
Chrono Trigger. Chrono Trigger.
They're not highly intelligent. They're genetically engineered beasts.
Glenn was a badass.
Hold on.
But no, really for my other armies, pretty much everything that I've wanted to do other beyond my first army of lizardmen has been because of something I like that's cool with the looks of the models, or something along those lines. Like my next up is I am working on Bretonnian, and I'm doing a Game of Thrones theme of and doing a
Okay, hold on. I gotta shut this off. There we go.
doing a Robert's Rebellion army with the Baratheons, the Starks, the Arryns, the Tullys, that sort of stuff, and gonna have like my general being Robert Baratheon, before he was fat. So it's gonna, and that's why I wanted to do it, and it's gonna be a lot of fun to paint everything up and have that awesome looking army on the table. But even that, I'm taking suboptimal choices because I'm actually, for my Ned Stark character, I'm going to actually have him be on foot in a unit of men-at-arms, because it's made more sense to me in my head than him being on a horse riding around. And I also couldn't come up with a really good way to do questing nights as in it. So beyond that, I'm going to do dwarves. Yeah, they're kind of a boring book, but I liked the models that I found, and that's going to be fun.
I heard Landon doesn't like dwarves, so you could probably get his models for pretty cheap.
There you go.
He'll use it to buy more wood elves.
Yeah.
Whenever the Way Watchers become available.
Man,
That actually brings me.
I'm sorry. I want to say I got 15 of them came in, so I'm good to go for a while.
Oh wow, you actually got some? I know that they're like not in production anymore or something ridiculous like that.
Yeah, I was able to order them in the 5 minutes they were up, and I managed to get one Warhawk rider, so I just need 2 more to go to retire the squirrels.
No!
Do not do that.
No, what's wrong with you? The squirrels, man. Squirrel power. Squeaky squeak, squeak squeak 'em.
Okay, I'm going to have to continue using them then.
You got to. That is awesome.
Yeah.
But yeah, beyond that, most of the things that I want to do for Warhammer armies isn't necessarily, I want to take the most powerful armies. It's, I want to have this cool-looking army that, or at least what I think is cool.
Yeah.
Right.
And that actually kind of brings me, and this might be a question for another session because I know we're running out late, but I'm like, what army do you want to build or start next? Is kind of a question I think would be fun to field, and why.
Yeah, we can certainly field that next week or the week after or whatever. I know we have a backlog of questions that we can ask, but that would be a good one, especially since, well, everybody except for Dallas kind of has some armies finished. So I know Landon's not going to start a new one because he just got new books for dwarves and wood elves.
Yeah.
So that's his hobby money for the year, probably.
Yeah.
Please, he's rolling in the dough.
No, yeah.
More.
No, I forgot he was.
It's all gone.
So I said I was going to come back to it, and I'll say this, Landon. When I showed you my warlocks, you were like, "Those are your warlocks?" That's where I'm getting that you didn't like my theme. I had the warlocks, like, because I'm Cult of Slanesh, I have the warlocks like half transforming into snakes, and I have some that are already snakes. And Landon saw the ones that were snakes and like gave me a cockeyed look, like, man, what's wrong with you?
They just, I'd never seen them on the battlefield, and I was like, I just didn't know what they were supposed to be, because I thought warlocks were supposed to be like cavalry, and they just look like snakes. But I mean, I'm fielding squirrels, so I have no room to talk.
No, I don't let me sound like I'm mad about that. I just remembered it. So when I said nobody's ever said anything about my theme, I was like, oh wait, no, I did have one person, and it was Landon. I've had several people back when I used the Keeper as a Hydra last edition. I had several people come up to me and ask why I was running demons, like what I was using for my alternate demon army, because I had one model that was demon themed, and the rest were all dark elves, and so of course that meant I was playing demons. But once I said, hey, it's Cult of Slanesh Dark Elves, they all just gave me the thumbs up and walked on.
Well, you're using different models now for your Hydra and such, right?
Yeah, I actually wanted to use the Keeper. Well, there's this whole long topic I can get into about why I'm using the Hydra now, but needless to say, I wanted to use the Keeper for other things. I wanted to actually use him for my for one of the things I thought I'm pretty sure I'm going to use him for is like the statue for my Cauldron of Blood, and so I couldn't actually have him as my Hydra. Then I got a cheap Hydra from Landon, and I like the Hydra model well enough, so I went ahead and made it. My other thing was I wanted to field more than one Hydra, and I didn't want to buy multiple Keepers of Secrets. So I was like, well, I should just get actual Hydras. Oh, my beautiful hair there. Yeah, Landon, I have a question for you, I guess, and this is kind of on the thrust of what Jody was saying. Everybody else here kind of has a theme for an army. Are you going to go for a themed army at some point? Like, are you going to, like, I don't know. Is that a thing that you're interested in, or are you interested more in the generic, like, army thing? And there's nothing good or bad about a theme. It's like a personal preference. So I'm not trying to, like, lead you into a question and then attack you afterwards. Haha, you gave me the wrong answer.
No, I absolutely love themes, and I appreciate what they bring to the table, but I changed my army so much. Like, I almost never field the same army twice. I mean, I had a list that was winning, and I just went around and changed it again. I just can't stand to have the same army more than once. Going with a theme would kind of be just impractical, because I would end up changing everything out. Also, I've had both of my armies update, and so I've got a bunch of new models, and I don't know, they've been all assembled and painted in extremely different points of my Warhammer career. So if I was going to stick to a theme, I would have had to stuck to it a long time ago.
Well, that's fair.
My next army.
That's fair points. I had that issue when Dark Elves updated. I was like, oh, well, actually the big hit for me was when the Dark Elves updated. They've now retconned out Cult of Slanesh from the history. So
that's great.
Yeah, like now they're like, oh, well, Morathi was kind of in a chaos cult, and there was kind of a chaos cult in ancient Nagarath, but we're not really going to go into it. We're not really going to say any names. We're not going to mention the S word here. And I was like, well, there's my whole army. Oh, well, here I am. Let's just do it.
Wait till 9th edition.
Yeah, the other thing, 9th edition reminds me, one of the other reasons I didn't want to use the Keeper as a Hydra is because I'm kind of hopeful that I can use allies in 9th edition, and I will actually run a legitimate Cult of Slanesh Dark Elf army with, like, Demonettes and the Keeper.
Oh, cool. Yeah, that's great. That's a great idea.
Like, that's one of the things that Allies is supposed to do, let you take, like, theme armies, and I know that everybody's worried, and rightfully so, that Allies will instead just turn into, let's take the most powerful stuff ever. Like, let me take High Elves with Beasts of Nurgle.
Or everyone's just going to have a steam tank and a cannon. And
Yeah. Well, let me play Wood Elves with like some dwarf cannons or something, whatever. Like it'll just be, and the concerns are well founded, but I want it just purely selfishly. I want to be able to field Slanesh demons with like my non-Canite dark elves. Like I don't use witch elves. I don't really want to use witch elves. I'd much rather use demonettes.
I think if they did that, I'd actually really like to do a high elf lizardman combo.
Yeah, another fun theme that I've thought of actually would be an ancient high elf, like from the demonic incursion, like before the races split.
Yeah.
You could probably never actually do that because even the most liberal ally rules wouldn't let you ally high elves and dark elves. But I thought it might be fun to use, like, I don't know. I guess they're close enough. Maybe you could do like high elves and wood elves, and it would be the same thing. I don't know.
That'd be cool.
I just kind of thought it might be fun to do like a period army.
Well, hey guys, I'm going to have to go ahead and bail. But
yeah, we're
we're
wrapping up.
My
here,
time's
buddy.
up. Okay, cool.
All right, man. Well, we'll see everybody next week. I don't know. We'll figure out something to talk about, I'm sure. And Landon, thanks for coming.
Thanks for having me.
Bye.
See you, Landon.
All right, guys. We'll see everybody next week.